This is Jason Schwartzwalder from Mother's Tomb, and you're listening to Jet on Metal Messiah Radio.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Metal Magdalene with Jet right here on Metal Messiah Radio. Tonight, we're delving into the underground to introduce you to a fairly new death metal band called Mother's Tomb, and we have with us their guitarist, Jason, tonight. Welcome to the show, Jason.
Thanks for having me on, Jet. How's it going?
Did you notice how I skipped right over your last name?
I did notice, and it's okay. It's Schwartzwalder. If you can say Schwartz, like, your Schwartz is as big as mine, even though it's probably not. Then you could say the Walder part. Yeah, it's daunting, right? I mean, 14 letters. It took me a long time to learn how to even spell it. Did it in sections as a kid.
like in third grade before you learn how to spell your last name.
Yeah, absolutely. It was, it was like, can you go to the fourth grade? I don't know. Can you spell this word?
So Jason, tell us a little bit about your background in music and what are some of like the bands you've been in and are currently in.
So my whole professional musical career started when I decided to get out of the bedroom and start playing some tunes with these guys I was jamming with in St. Pete, Florida around, I'd say, maybe 2011, 2012 maybe. It was a band called Deadlift. We got together doing like Iron Maiden, Metallica, and Megadeth covers, and actually we found each other on Craigslist. It's kind of funny. I put an ad up on Craigslist because me and this guy had been jamming these tunes. I was looking for somebody on guitar, bass, singer, whatever, and I picked up this one dude who was a pretty screaming lead player and knew all the Marty Friedman parts, and I knew all the Dave Mustaine parts, So we were jamming that stuff, and it was coming together pretty good. And I kind of broke into the Tampa metal scene in that band, in Deadlift. And I mean, it got to the point where pretty much the end of the band, around the time we stopped doing anything, we opened up for Fear Factory at State Theater. And I'll never forget looking into the crowd and seeing probably 20, 25 Deadlift shirts. That was really super cool.
And so what else, what else have you been doing leading up to Mother's Tomb? Yeah.
Right before Mother's Tomb, I was playing for Brutality. Okay, so I'm gonna go back further than that. I left Florida. I was playing this band called Cadaver Dolls. We were on a small label called Spread the Metal. It turned into Willpower Entertainment. And then I left Florida for personal reasons and went to Georgia. Wasn't really doing anything musical. Ended up working at the Masquerade in Atlanta, and then ended up getting hooked up with a guy in a band called Chaotica. And I don't know if you remember Chaotica from a few years ago when they got in that van wreck with Wormright and Cult of Azazel, and they were on the black metal tour. And I actually ended up replacing the guy who was driving the van on the tour. I went on tour with Chaotica for a little while. Then I left Atlanta, I came back to Florida, and on my way back in, I was approached by Scott from Brutality about, possibly coming and jamming with him. And I was like, that's pretty cool. And Jay Fernandez had hit me up probably about 2 years before that, before I left for Atlanta, and asked me if I was interested in jamming with him. And I think it was around the time that they were recording Sea of Ignorance, because they wanted to play some shows with it, and things were not working out with with Donnie and everything. So however that went down, I wasn't around then, but I did about a year with Brutality. We did a couple cool shows. We played the Louisville Death Fest up in Kentucky. We did the 70,000 tons pre-cruise show down in Miami with Death Crown and a couple other killer death metal bands from the Florida area. And so then when I left Brutality, I left Florida to come back to Georgia for another economic, personal reasons. And I came up here, and it was decided that things would end with Brutality because of the past that they had had with people and long distance relationships, and I don't think they were really into dealing with it at all at the time. And that whole situation kind of brewed that first song that came out, Mutual Hostility. It's not a nice song. I don't know if you've listened to it. have to say, I love Death. I love Chuck. I love the way he didn't give a fuck what people thought about him, and he did what he wanted to do. And if something pissed him off, he fucking wrote a song about it. And so that's kind of what I did, And it's not typically directed at any one person. You listen to the song, and it talks about a lot of types of people. It's just those people that get into your skin, and it's just, you can't get them out. You can't get them out of your head. You know what I'm talking about.
Sure.
So, and that's all personal. And I want to stress that anything that any of these songs or anything that I say in my music has to do with another outfit musically or anything that they've done or achieved or anything. I mean, this is all person to person,
So tell us a little bit now how Mother's Tomb was started and who started it all up.
So, I had been toying around with a death metal band. When I first left and came back to Atlanta, I was actually going to start doing some stoner metal. I had a stoner band years ago in Tampa that was pretty prominent, and we broke up way too soon. Kind of blew our load way early in the career of the band, and it just kind of fizzled out. But I was going to do that, and then I was approached by a friend that used to be in Chaotica. Her name's Bailey Allender. She was also the bassist for Wormright and Grave Gnosis at one point. And she wanted to do death metal. And I was like, I'm into that, I can do some death metal, like our style of death metal. And she had the name Mother's Tomb, actually. Mm-hmm. And I ended up paying her for the name because it ended up not working out. You know how you get with your friends, let's start a band, hell yeah, man, crack a beer, But I was serious because I've always been very expressive. And once I started writing my own music, it was like, okay, this is it. This is my drug, It's what I like to do. So Mother's Tomb came about because I was, pissed off about a lot of things, and I ended up writing some songs, basically in my dad's basement. Me and my family lived in my dad's finished basement in Georgia. We actually just moved out. I just moved into a place, sitting in my living room talking to you right now. It's a beautiful thing. And I wrote those songs in the basement, and then the first thing I did was I needed drums. And so I've been friends with Jeremy Kling for quite some time, and he did some live stuff for Brutality last year. We played the Brass Mug, or not last year, 2 years ago now. And so we've been, friends, and I'm friends with his lady, and we've all been friends for a while. So I hit him up about doing drums, and he wasn't able to join the project because I don't know but if you know Jeremy, but he's in like 15 bands. Fucking ridiculous. He drums for Venom Inc., and he does Gore Gang, and he has The Absence, and he has a Rib Spreader, and I don't know how many other bands him and Taylor Nordberg have, and it's ridiculous. But anyway, he brought it to life after I wrote the songs. Cause I don't know, I just was like, hey, I'm gonna write some songs and see what happens. I never really stepped out on my own in the death metal realm. It wasn't what I grew up on. I grew up on the more thrashy, like Metallica and like, Zeppelin and Deep Purple and early Sabbath, like early shit that led into thrash, not so much your, extremer, more heavy death metal shit. But since I've gotten older, I've seemed to getting heavier and heavier as I get older. I like it heavier and grittier and dirtier. So
now you guys are a band, right, with actual band members and everything, Jason?
Yeah, so Jeremy couldn't join the band, but I knew that I could find a drummer. I had quite a few friends who were drummers. I used to work for Dean Guitars, and I had a pretty good friendship with a buddy named John McDonald there, who used to be Pete Sandoval's like right-hand guy, all the way through Morbid Angel into Terrorizer. He just recently was let go by Pete, and he's the guy at D-Drum. And I met him when I was working at Dean there, and we jammed before, one of those drunken nights in the garage, just making noise. And so I hit him up about being the live drummer. So I got John, and then I got a buddy of mine named Brad Jones from Tampa's Rip Torn thrash band. I don't know if you've heard them before. They're pretty killer. He's a really great bass player. Does a lot of funky stuff in there. Vince DeBona from Grave Rot. Mm-hmm. And he was also part of Insanity, the live Insanity crew about 4 years ago when they did a U.S. tour with Nervo Chaos. I was living with the bass player at the time, and they went on a month-long tour around the U.S. And then Donnie Hamilton is pulled in on vocals. It's funny with Donnie, I had everybody else, and I pretty much did all the guitar parts. I recorded everything except for there's 2 solos on the EP that aren't me. One of them is a guest solo on the second song, and another one is Vince's solo on the third song, but everything else is me. And then Brad did his bass, Jeremy did his drums, and I wrote all the lyrics as well, and the vocal placements and the cadence and everything. And so I was having a hard time finding a vocalist. A lot of people wanted to do it, and some people were not able to do it full time and wanted to be, done studio time. And I was just not into. I want to make it a live thing. I want to get out there. So I'm not into paying 4 people to do other parts. You know what I mean? To just have to put it together later anyway. So you ever heard of a thing called Viral Load? It's like a death metal band from Texas back in the 90s.
Yeah, sure.
Donnie used to be the lead singer of that band back in the day, and then actually he was the lead singer of Deadlift for a little while. Back in the early days of Deadlift. And so I hit Donnie up because he's got this like Randy Blythe like growl but pronunciation where it's snarling, but you can understand what he's saying. So I love that. I think it's great when you hear people that enunciate when they're being, snarly. And he took him 3 days. I was like, hey, man, we're recording this weekend because I had it all set up. I was traveling from Georgia to Florida to do it. And he learned it in 3 days. So honestly, the cadence on the first song is not the smoothest 100%. It sounds pretty good because me and Preston at Master Sound in Tampa kind of chopped it a little bit and kind of smoothed it out a little bit. But the second song and the third song are flawless. Those songs are gonna really blow people out of the water. The first song's still a great song, don't get me wrong, but it is an EP. It is a first go. It's not, I didn't even do a demo. I went straight for an EP, and I think the tracks are strong enough to stand up for an EP and skip a demo because the quality is good. The song structure is good, and the musicianship and everything is pretty much top notch in my opinion.
So did you write everything? Did you do all the writing on it?
I mean, mostly, yeah. I mean, I wrote pretty much everything. Like, I didn't tell Jeremy what to do. However, when I gave him the tracks, I told him to think Hoagland, Inferno, and Reinert. And I was like, I want you to get those 3 guys in your head, and I want you to listen to these tracks, and that's what I want is those 3. And Jeremy delivered, man. The drums on these tracks are monstrous. It's a whole other life, a whole other instrument. It even changed the direction of some of the songs because I had an idea in my head of where it would go. And then, when the drums do it, it can change that, And so, but it did great. He did great. He knocked it out of the park. I wish he wasn't so busy because he would be my guy, But John's a great drummer. He's a really great friend of mine. So I'm not disappointed,
So tell us a little bit about the EP now that you have coming out. Why did you? I mean, you said you skipped right over the demo stage and jumped right into the EP. But why did you guys or you choose to go like the EP route and not like the full length route?
So right now in my life, I got a decent amount of personal monkeys in a barrel that I'm dealing with, so to speak. My wife's dealing with stage 3 breast cancer, and also dealing with raising 3 children on a single income and dealing with her going through chemotherapy and everything, and and then also just your normal stressors of life and raising children, and so I couldn't commit fully to something like a full length. I couldn't commit fully to it with monetarily, and I also wanted to see if what I wrote and what I put out that was 100% me. I want to see if people dig it. I want to see if people like it. And I mean, I was approached by Redefining Darkness Records, by Tomas from Redefining Darkness. Like he hit me up from the Seeing Red record page because he runs both labels, and had said he was really interested because I put up Mutual Hostility on SoundCloud, and I was sharing it on Instagram and on Facebook and just just proud to have something for people to listen to, you know. And my plan was to get signed. Everybody that I had asked to join the band, I told them that was the plan. I said, I wrote these songs. We're going to record everything else. I recorded my parts in Georgia. Jamie recorded his drum parts at his house in Florida, his studio. And everything else was done in Tampa at Master Sound Studios. The mixing, mastering, the solos, the vocals, the bass, everything else was done there. And shit, I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
Well, what are some of the songs about then, Jason?
Okay, so we've kind of touched base a little bit on what the first song's about, you know, personal vendetta against people that you feel have wronged you in your life, you know, whichever way, however, you know, it is. The second song is called Slaughtering Innocents, and it goes back to me being an 8th grader going into 9th grade, and the year before I was going into 9th grade, Columbine happened. And, you know, it pretty much sent fear through anybody that was that age all around the United States. And so I wrote a song called Slaughtering Innocents that touches base on about 3 different levels of slaughtering innocents. So you can start out with the most obvious one, with guys coming into a place where children are with machine guns and killing innocent children. That's a slaughtering of innocents. Then you also have the slaughtering of innocents of the people who were doing the slaughtering were also children. They were slaughtering their own innocence by killing these people and creating and doing these acts. And then the third and deepest one is you have the slaughtering of the innocence of the entire nation, because it was the first time that it was televised that people went into a school, children went into a school and killed other children with no remorse whatsoever. And then killed themselves so that there could be no closure and no remorse for any of the parents or the victims or anything. So it just came out. The music that I wrote for it that song is one that punches you in the face the entire time it happens. That's the one that I have my buddy from Garroted, Ray Brower, does a killer guest lead on it. I mean, it's scorching. And it's the whole song just doesn't stop. And so the lyrics are basically about that day, about Columbine.
And going into this EP, Jason, did you have in your mind what you were going for musically when writing this?
Kind of, sort of, yeah. I mean, I was just letting the vibe take me where it was taking me with the music as far as the riffs. But then when I started like connecting riffs, and I started seeing that I was writing riffs that were like other riffs that I had written, so they were good for a song, you know, to put together. I started to try to feel what I wanted it to be about, because I feel like a lot of people just write music and then they let the lead singer write lyrics and deem what the song is about, when the creation of the emotion through the music that's created, when the notes are created on the fretboard, to me, that's where the originality of what the song is about should be coming from. It should be, close your eyes and listen to this, and what do you feel when you hear it? To me, that's where the substance or the title of a song should come from. So I wrote that one. There's also another one that I wrote, because the whole EP is called Absent Not Dead, and it's dedicated to my cousin who died a couple of years ago. He was killed in Savannah, Georgia, and he was a really cool dude, man. He was a good musician, a good artist, just a good guy. He was learning boat mechanics down there, and he was actually going to move to St. Pete, Florida. Around that time, I was working for a small record label, and I was in 3 different bands. And so we were going to have a band, and I was going to plug him into the scene there, and I was booking shows at different places, and it was a pretty cool time. And then it all fell down. And then that's when I came back to Georgia, and I started working the Masquerade, and then I ended up in Chaotic and all that. That was after Damon was killed. So, but the whole EP is dedicated to him, and the song Absent Not Dead is basically about someone who was so influential in life that even in death, they're not gone, because they left their imprint so hard that, you know, it's still followed on a daily basis, or it's remembered on a daily basis, or somebody exudes something that they did, you know, they're influenced by them. And he was one of those dudes. And so Absent Not Dead is definitely, it's all for him. But I left the song open-ended enough that if people have had that type of loss and they can personally identify with it and it helps them feel better, then, you know, that's what this is all about, right?
So tell us a little bit about the cover art, too, and the artist, Jason.
Yeah, so I was looking for a cover artist. I had a few people inquire, and I looked at their art, and for this type of thing, being that it was so personal, I really felt like I needed to find somebody that exceeded any expectation that I could have of what my dream in my head could come to life to be. And I was having a hard time finding somebody, and then I went to Thomas, and he said, I got this guy, he's not cheap, but maybe you could maybe you tell him what the EP's about, give him some of the music, see if he could, and then throw a number at him, see if he'd get it for you. And, I'm not going to say how much it was done for, but I'm going to say it wasn't an arm and a leg. Might have still been a leg, but it wasn't an arm and a leg. But Mario Lopez really knocked it out of the park. I mean, the first thing I saw when I went to his page and looked was that he had done work for Iron Maiden. And I was immediately sold. I'm like, yeah. He did one of the Christmas cards for the Iron Maiden fan club. And it's just, it's like Eddie, Ebenezer Scrooge or something standing in the cemetery with the hatchet. It's killer. And so I told him my vision of what it was, and I told him how important it was to me and how it was important to my family and everything, because I have a super tight-knit family here, in Georgia. I'm from Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia. It's the South. Hold it. Everybody comes to dinner, and wait for everybody to sit down before we eat, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, Mario did me really good, and matter of fact, the artwork is a painting, and I'm going to be purchasing that painting for him and having it shipped from Guatemala, and I'll be hanging it in my living room proudly.
Nice.
It's beautiful. You've seen it, obviously.
Right.
It is. Like I said, it exceeded expectation.
Now, when's the EP going to be out, and where can people go to pre-order it or anything like that? Has that even started yet?
So the artwork was done traditionally, and so it was one layer, and then the name and the EP name were laid on top. So we're having somebody work on the layering of it right now to put it for the layout for CD. It's going to be available on compact disc through Redefining Darkness Records. You can keep up with that on Bandcamp. You can go to redefiningdarknessrecords.com. There it gives you a link to the Facebook, to the Instagram, to the Bandcamp. But all the sales for all Redefining Darkness's bands come out of Bandcamp. So if you guys want to keep up with that, look there. You can go to the Mother's Tomb Facebook. But it's days. It's days away. Single digit days. We should be hopefully giving out a date for the pre-sales. It's really, really close. We're like I said, we're working on the layout as we speak. I'm chomping at the bit, man. I've been trying not to message Thomas because I got to the point where I was like, I'm sorry, man. I don't know if I'm bugging you, but he's like, well, you're almost there because it's every day now, It's like he's like this stuff doesn't happen overnight. I'm like, I know, but man, I really feel like people are really going to dig it. I've already got a good response because obviously I've sent, some tracks to friends and fellow musicians, people in bands that I really respect, bands that are super influential into the genre in which I'm trying to step into. And so to have support from some of those people and to hear kind words about the music when I showed it to them was pretty encouraging. And so more than likely, your Mother's Tomb is just getting started. I've already written more songs. We're writing more songs with the band now. We're doing kind of like a Skype thing with Vince. We've got 2 more songs written. The guitars so far. With this new house I just moved into, actually, I'm building a studio in the garage because I'm part of a company here in Atlanta called Terminus Hate City. It's a production, management, recording company that a buddy of mine runs, and I just joined it. We're going to build a studio in the garage, so I'm going to have a spot. I'm going to have my band coming up and rehearsing, and we're going to rehearse more songs, go on a small tour hopefully next year. I've already got a couple of offers on shows for 2020. One of them I've confirmed, but it's not a confirmed thing out in the open yet. But so Mother's Tomb will be doing something live in 2020. So bet.
And so what's the best sites for people to go to then, Jason, to follow the band, see what's going on, like Bandcamp and Facebook or something?
Right now, Bandcamp and Facebook. I mean, we are on Spotify and all the streaming sites. although right now it's only the single Mutual Hostility. That's the only one that's up right now. Once the EP is released, obviously the day that it's released, we're going to be putting the whole thing on streaming sites and services and everything. Hoping to get a pretty good response on the pre-sale. I'd really like to make enough back from these CDs to do some limited edition cassettes, because the EP was done it was mastered in reel to reel, so it's analog. So you can put it on a vinyl, or you can put it on a cassette, and it's going to sound real good. Instead of like these remasters they've been doing lately. I don't know if you've heard. I bought the Death's Individual Thought Patterns, the Relapse reissue, and I mean it sounds like it's in a fucking trash can, man. It's terrible. It's an MP3 smashed onto an analog medium. I have the original tape from 1993, and that's what the fuck I play all the time. So
hey, there you guys go. Mother's Tomb have a new EP coming out soon, and you can find out when it drops and where you can pick it up at their Facebook page. I'm sure they'll have all kinds of links from there. And Jason, thank you for coming on the show and introducing us to your band, and all the best with the EP and everything you guys got going on.
Thank you very much for having us. Thank you to Metal Messiah Radio. Thank you, Jet, and everybody out there listening. Just keep it heavy fucking metal.